Hey gang, I'm going to do a comparison between these two really quite popular and both really capable large fixed blade knives. This is the Fallkniven A1 at the top and the K-Bar Becker BK7 at the bottom. I've used the A1 a lot and the BK7 not a lot, so I'm not going to make too many rulings on which is actually better or worse, but I always would have liked to have seen this video or type of video before I went and bought the BK7 because I was interested in how big it was in comparison, but didn't have any point of reference. So I'll go through the various attributes, starting with price. So the A1 in America will cost you about $200, and the BK will cost you about $100. So it's about half the price. In Australia, the BK is still pretty well attainable at 170-ish, but the A1 really escalates in price rather quickly. Size. Both of these blades, I would say, fall into the mid to large size survival knife. The A1 has the 6-inch blade and a 4.5-inch handle, but the Becker has the 7-inch blade and the 5-inch handle. So it's kind of a little bit of a larger knife dimensionally. However, in terms of weight, mainly due to the very thick stock, as you can see here, the A1 being the top stock and the BK being the bottom stock, the A1's just under 0.25 of an inch, and the BK is weighing in about 3/16. So the A1 that's 6mm, the BK is at 4.7mm. The blades. So the blade on the BK7 is a 7-inch long saber ground blade, as I said before, at 3/16 of an inch, 4.7mm thick. It's got a bit of a combat appearance with its swedge and its thumb ramp there. The blade on the A1 is 6 inches long. It is 0.24 inches, so just under 1/4 of an inch thick. And it's also got a bit of a swedge, but less of a clip point and more of a drop point. With regards to the points or the tips of these knives, they're both fairly stout. However, as you see in this diagram or this representation right now, the A1 is a little bit more robust in terms of being thicker further down towards the tip. So you can sort of see why now, although they weigh almost the same, the A1 can be a little bit shorter, and the BK1 being a bit thinner, you do get a bit of a longer knife with larger actual dimensions, apart from the thickness, of course. So that's the spines of the two, and all the way down to the tip, you do sort of see that they're both obviously quite robust knives, but I'd probably put, in terms of robustness of the blades, the A1 maybe a little bit ahead. It's kind of a bit compacter. The handle. So the Becker BK7 has the Becker handle, which is kind of like a traditional Fred Flintstone bone shape. Really, really comfortable in the hand. It's made of like smooth plastic. I think it's grivery. I don't know. Every hand would fit this handle really well. It's nice and basic. It's got 2 parrot beaks, one at the front, one at the back, forming 2 guards that will stop your hand from passing back onto the or forward onto the blade or back off the handle. The end of the handle has a pommel, which is useful at camp for striking things as an impact tool, and the lanyard hole is also like oversized, which is really, really cool. You can take these scales off by using bolts, which you can't do on the Fallkniven A1 handle, which, as you can see, is entirely surrounding that tang. So the tang of the Fallkniven A1 is still full, however it is a little bit narrower. You could probably guess by looking in there that there would be a bit of a cutaway to make it fit inside that handle. In terms of how comfortable it is to hold, it's still very comfortable. In fact, I actually prefer doing the harder jobs with this handle, despite it probably not being as amazingly secure as the Becker is in shape, because it doesn't have as pronounced guards at the front or back. However, I find the grip on this one probably draws it about even in terms of not escaping your grip and actually being a little bit more comfortable with impact style tasks. The forward finger guard is certainly nothing on the Beckers though. The quality. Both of these are super high quality knives. There is nothing to doubt about the integrity of either of the blades, the BK7 and the Fallkniven A1. As you'll see in the next section, they both stand up to pretty abusive tasks pretty well. Abilities. So because this is YouTube, and because people like to see it, and because you know what, it is actually a reasonable use for a large knife like this, splitting larger chunks of firewood down into kindling is something that you might do at home or at camp. Probably even at home. I used to use an Ontario SP8 to do this all the time. And this Becker does it just fine. The thinner stock and the higher, flatter grind make it, if I had to call a winner, probably not as good as the A1. It does get a little bit hung up a little bit easier. Not super easy. It's still not as stubborn as, say, some flat grinds are to get through big chunks of wood, but as you can see here, it has met a knot, and it does get a little bit caught, needing a little bit of movement to get it free again. However, the strength of the knife, that Krovan steel, certainly that would be a horrible place to be inside that log right now if you're a knife, and the Krovan steel definitely puts up with it. There was all sorts of nerve-inducing crackings while I was doing this, and it did absolutely fine. Just not as easy as you see in the next one, the full convex, or the mainly convex edge of the A1. This knife here splits like an axe when you strike the back of it with wood. It's just a bit thicker, and the convex just pushes that wood apart just a little bit more rapidly. There's less places for it to stick, and I did find that on this really seasoned, really hard, almost glassy, rocky red gum, the A1 was a bit of the slightly better splitter. However, it's certainly no commentary on the BK7 being bad. The A1 just a little bit more easy. But in terms of your finer work, say you're making your curls for your wood or whatnot, or even cutting food and things, the BK7 is definitely superior to the A1 in terms of being easy to use for your lighter tasks. There's less of a learning curve using this knife. The saber grind is really thin behind the edge, which makes it really easy to get these feather sticks. I've used the A1 a lot, and I found the BK7 more instantly usable for doing this task than the A1, even though I've sort of tweaked the A1 with the edge that I like, and it's been my knife for a year and a half or so now, and I've used it a lot. Instantly, the BK7 performed a little bit better, to even, you'd almost say, a lot better in this task, and I would recommend it if this is the sort of work you're going to be doing more. Not to say the A1 is horrible at it, purely just needing probably a little bit of learning, a bit more angle work, just to get those curls coming off really easily. This is exactly the same wood, so I just found that getting the result was easier with the BK7 than with the A1, but it still wasn't horrible to do it with the A1. Look, honestly, neither of these knives are ideal to do this sort of task with. You'll find like a Scandi grind from a Mora or something will bite in way better, but I think the theory behind these knives is having something so you just carry the one blade, and so you can do all sorts of jobs at a moderate level. So I'm happy with both of them, how they baton and do fine tasks. The sheath. So honestly, neither of these sheaths are going to take gold at the Sheath Olympics. They're both really high quality knives, and you get a lot of knife for your money, but the sheaths are obviously, it's not where the money's gone. So the BK7 comes with like a pretty floppy nylon style sheath. It's the more rigid nylon than some of the really junky Chinese ones you get, and I think it's a US made sheath. I can't remember. But it's of good quality. However, it rattles like crazy, and although it's got the molly stick on the back, it's all Velcro and just a little bit loose, and the retention strap is a little bit tight. Even though you can sort of adjust it, it's not perfect. And the A1 as well, some people love, some people hate these sheaths. I think I prefer this to the BK. I just like the hardness. I feel it's a bit more, gonna get caught up on stuff a bit less. I don't need those front pockets to keep little knives or multi-tools in or anything like that. The retention strap's a bit easier to use on the A1, but really, they're both sort of definitely nothing on a great Kydex sheath that you might get with an Essie or something similar to that. So just they're serviceable, but nothing too spectacular about either of these sheaths at all. So I wouldn't really factor them in. I might even put a bit of cash aside to perhaps get yourself something a little nicer. In terms of something else, some other knives that are also in this category, this is the Bark River Bravo 2. That's sort of something else that might compete for your attention. A little bit more money than both. The SE6 sits between the two of them in cost, and it is a really popular knife. I just haven't used it, so I'm not willing to draw on how good it is. And if you want something a lot less, then the Ontario SP 48 or 46, I think this is, will definitely do the job for you with a softer steel rather than one of these ones. So it won't last as long in edge retention, but it'll be a solid performer in terms of your strength tests and things like that. But in terms of these two knives, I mean, they're both great. If you see the extra value in the stainlessness of the VG10 for the A1, then it might be the knife for you. However, you can save a lot of dollars by getting something that's a little bit thinner, doesn't do that splitting quite as well, but is great at fine tasks on the BK BK7. I hope this has been of some value to you. Just seeing the knives next to each other I always find kind of would help me make a decision if I was picking between the two, if I wasn't a complete knife psycho like I am and getting both anyway. But for those who might have this choice, then I hope this video has been of some value. Alright dudes, I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.